Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, HollywoodShono here, about to give you another HollywoodShono in real life video. In this video, we're going to be talking about Nintendo Switch versus the PlayStation Vita. Now, if you guys remember this little device back in 2012, you guys know that this was a handheld that was a successor to the PlayStation Portable. Now, the reason that the PlayStation Vita unfortunately hit the demise was the simple fact that the AAA ports were not there, you did not have clicky analog sticks, and you only have one shoulder button on the side. However, there was also a proprietary port up here, which was absolutely used for nothing. No TV out, no anything. But the biggest fail for the PlayStation Vita was the fact that you couldn't even use micro SD cards. You had to buy proprietary SD cards that were double the cost of actual storage. Like if you wanted a 64 gig card, which wasn't even available until like 2015, you had to pay $120, and for a 32 gig card way back in the day you had to pay $100 just for that, which was absolutely stupid. So is Sony the reason why this device was a big failure? In my opinion, yes, because this device definitely helped revolutionize mobile gaming, as it was a huge chunk stronger than the Nintendo 3DS, but many flaws came from that. Games were super hard to play on the PlayStation Vita compared to actually using a DualShock 4 controller, and the simple fact that remote play barely worked for any PlayStation 3 games, and for the longest time, the Vita only streamed games in 720p. Not to mention that when you're actually streaming a game onto your PlayStation Vita, you cannot actually use remote play unless you hook up your PS4 to Elgato, which in my opinion is a very big fail, because I would rather use this for remote play, and this thing has probably collected dust for well over 2 years. However, there is a new device that I'm really enjoying, and that is the Nintendo Switch. As you guys know, I've been playing games like NBA 2K17, Super Mario Kart, Disgaea 5. I will be playing WWE 2K18 when it comes out. I've also picked up Pokken Tournament, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, which I plan on doing some streams with, and many other fun games that I definitely look forward to playing, including Skyrim. I will also be picking up Doom, Wolfenstein Newer, and I'll probably even support FIFA, because I want to see UFC make a return to the Switch. I'd love to see NHL make a hit on the Switch. I'd love to see Madden. I'd love to see an NBA Jam port on the Switch, not NBA Playgrounds, because old school NBA Jam was amazing. So why is the Nintendo Switch such a big successor to the PlayStation Vita? Well, number one, it's the perfect size to play in your hand. The problem that a lot of people had with the PlayStation Vita, even without a grip, it was not comfortable to hold in the hand. So you have this little device here that's like 5.3, 5.5 inches or something like that. And the problem was, this little thing was not comfortable in your hands. Look how much room there is in your hand. And this is obviously a guy. My smartphone is bigger than my PlayStation Vita, as you can see right there. So I think the PlayStation Vita was actually too small, and the Nintendo Switch, in my opinion, was just the right size, as the tablet portion of it is 6.2 inches, and you can see right there, that's the size of my PlayStation, or my phone. That's the size of my Nintendo Switch, and yeah, that makes a lot more sense, because then when you have the dedicated thing, it actually feels really good to hold in the hand. Also, the fact that the Nintendo Switch uses micro SD cards which fit under the kickstand is not trying to use proprietary memory, but there is a format where you can only use the memory card with your Nintendo Switch. If you try to put it in a friend's Nintendo Switch, it won't even work. But the simple fact that PlayStation Vita had its own proprietary memory cards, and in my eyes that was a big fail. I don't think people bought into the whole PlayStation Vita thing, because you had to pay $250, $300 if you got a launch bundle, which was the starting price. This is $300, and I think this is way more justified, but you had to pay $300 for the system itself, and then you had to pay an additional $100 or $50 for a 16 gigabyte card, which in these days, 16 gigabytes on a Nintendo Switch is like $5. And you can pick up 128 gigs for like $45. You can pick up 200 gigs for $80. You can pick up 256 gigs for about $150, and 400 gigabytes from SanDisk is available for $250. And when you're talking the difference between 256 gigs and 400 gigs, that's a little bit more justifiable than $150 just for a 64 gigabyte card in this PlayStation Vita, which only runs games in 960 by 540. And when you were trying to stream games from your PlayStation 4, until like a couple years ago, you were streaming in 30 FPS. So the Nintendo Switch, I feel, is a great console, and I think the PlayStation Vita made a bunch of mistakes. I really think that instead of the Vita going smaller than the PSP, they should have made it bigger. I think if they would have went with this form factor, which is the perfect size. The PlayStation Vita is definitely too small. As you can tell, my smartphone, which is the Samsung Galaxy Note 8, is bigger than the PlayStation Vita. So obviously having a grip does help offset the Vita. However, yeah, the Nintendo Switch is way better. And the fact that you can play this on the go, the fact that you can dock this to a TV, and unlike the PlayStation Vita, you can actually have 4 people playing on this device at once. So, in my opinion, is the PlayStation Vita a failure? Yes. Could it have been a failure? No. The problem was, the PlayStation Vita is centered around one person. The Nintendo Switch is centered around 4 people, and that is the big strength that Nintendo has versus the Vita. Now, is the PlayStation Vita a bad system? Absolutely not. However, why does the PlayStation Vita exist in 2017? It's clear that the Nintendo Switch is a system that does deserve to be around, and it deserves the praise that it sold almost 5 million consoles since March, and even outsold both the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 in August of 2017. And it's funny that a little device like this outsells the Xbox One S, X, regular, whatever thing you want to call it, Project Scorpio. And the reason for that is innovation. Xbox does absolutely nothing to innovate, and let's face it, the Kinect is an utter piece of shit. If you're trying to use it on an Xbox One X or even the Xbox X, you have to have an adapter plugged into a power supply. Who the hell wants to use their camera into a power supply? It's one thing if you're using a PlayStation VR with a power supply, because that does a totally different thing, and you need the extra power to run it, just like with the Oculus Rift, the HTC Vive. Virtual reality does require a lot of power. Why in the world does a Kinect require a power supply? Microsoft, what the hell were you thinking with the Xbox One X? I get that the whole, you can play games in HDR, you can have movies in HDR, but the Xbox One S is a media machine. It is not a gaming system. The PlayStation 4 Pro is a gaming system, and gamers focus on games. So, why is this system selling better than the Xbox One? Well, you can take your games on the go. Now, I really am looking forward to seeing what games are going to be coming out for this in 2018. And I must say, I've played NBA 2K18, and all of us at work are really enjoying the game. I don't give a fuck that games are at 30 FPS. The fact is, 30 FPS is playable, and it's a great gaming experience being able to play NBA 2K18 on the Nintendo Switch. Now, the green Joy-Con is part of the Splatoon bundle. I actually got these as a Japan-China import. I can't remember where. But if you buy the Splatoon bundle, I think it's like $369 at Walmart. You get Splatoon 2, you get the cool Joy-Cons, and you get a pop. Totally worth it. And I'm personally glad to see the Nintendo Switch doing well. Now, does PlayStation Vita need a successor? No. However, I think that they need to take a lot of steps from the Nintendo Switch, and I made a video about this in the past. If PlayStation Vita makes a successor, they need to make it bigger. It doesn't need to be something that fits in your pocket. It doesn't need to be like a smartphone. I know they had the idea with a PlayStation Mobile back in the day to try to cash in on mobile gaming, but PlayStation, if you're watching this video, which is highly unlikely because I am not Machinima, I'm not a big game reporter video, but PlayStation, consider a successor that does play PlayStation 4 digital games on the go. Have it with 64 gigs onboard storage, supporting micro SD cards for $300, and I guarantee you, you'll have 5 million people buy a 7-inch variant of the PlayStation Portable that lets you play PlayStation 4 games in 1080p, 60 frames a second. I really think there would be a good market out for that, and Sony could learn a lot from Nintendo. I get that Sony wants to stay in the dedicated console market, as their phones are just garbage compared to Samsung, but I really think that Sony needs to innovate their mobile handheld thing, and the Nintendo Switch is a beautiful thing because it shows that people want portability, and people will spend money on a device like this. I paid for money, not at launch, but pretty close to it, and yeah, the only game that was really out at the time worth buying was Breath of the Wild. Second game to come out, Mario Kart, then this Gaia 5, and then now a bunch of games have come out. So, is it worth buying a PlayStation Vita in 2017? No. The Vita has not been viable since 2013. I picked up my first iPad, and my PlayStation Vita has been dusted since then. There is no room on the market for a Vita unless you want to experience all the free games, or if you do want to play the games. However, just get a Nintendo Switch. Let me know what you guys think down below. Leave your comments down below. Share this video amongst your friends, and have a wonderful day, kids.
www.youtube.com/HollywoodShono. Subscribe, bitches!